to the first edition of the ET Now Financial Inclusion Dialogue presented by Amdocs. The idea of this platform really stems from the fact that less than 2/3 of India's households have access to banking facilities even after 67 years of independence. And financial inclusion is today a top priority for the government as well as the Reserve Bank of India. To set the ball rolling, I'd like to welcome on stage Mr. Patrick McGrory, President, Amdocs Emerging Offerings Division, who will set the context for this evening's Financial Inclusion Dialogue.
Thank you very much, and it's really an honor and a pleasure to be here tonight. Namaste. This is a week of many firsts. We had our president and our leaders of our governments, respective governments, working together about how we can create a better future for all of the people around the world and help lift the whole environment and create a better working environment for everybody. We've had the Jan Dan initiative join the Guinness Book of World Records, actually creating 115 million accounts in 5 months. A world record by any standard and a massive feat, and I congratulate you all on this significant achievement. As we work to change the world, I invite you to join us. We have a presence here in India working with great customers like Airtel, BSNL SBI, Uninor, MTS, and others, and I invite you to join us in generating the next wave of this revolution. With that, I'd like to hand over to the head of our operations here in India, Mr. Anshu Gore, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you very much once again for joining us.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks, Pat. I think the thing to say is that there are tectonic shifts going on. If you look at the political world, the political climate, the technological world, the tectonic shifts going on, and more so the tectonic shifts which are going on in the communication, the banking, and the retail world. And the way we are looking at this is if you think about all these three, they're converging, and the element which is making that convergence happen and really enabling the unleashing of those three sectors is the mobile phone. So you've got a situation in the country where tectonic shifts taking place, but there's financial exclusion. So if that's the case, then what's the opportunity? The opportunity then is to change the equation. And the way we look at it is change the equation using mobile-first financial services. We've got over 900, and you know we can sometimes count some duplicates, over 900 million of the 1.27 billion people have mobile phone. And then you already have 4 million agents. There are about 77,000 branches in the country, bank branches, but on the side you have 4 million agents which are out there, and they can be leveraged to unleash this the financial inclusion agenda that we talked about. And my invitation today is to really see how we can take these, use mobile as the fueling catalyst, if you will, for providing a diverse range of products. You certainly need an enabling ecosystem. We are a big country, and you have different players who play different parts in this equation. And then we certainly need banking technology, which is different from the banking technology of the traditional banking system, which is agile, which is lightweight, which is low cost, which is scalable, which is able to get to near sub-second response times and validate all the things that need to get done. So that's really the opportunity that exists to enable and fuel that financial inclusion that we talked about. Clearly, the time is now for India, and there's going to be massive change, and we collectively want to be players in enabling that change to happen. Thank you very much.
Please put your hands together for the keynote speaker this evening. We are indeed very grateful that he could join us tonight, Mr. H.R. Khan, Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of India.
So let me very briefly recount the recent initiatives of Reserve Bank of India in the field of financial inclusion. In fact, we can put it in terms of 7 Ps. If you say the first P being the policy framework, the whole approach of financial inclusion, both branch banking and agent banking combined together, we should have a financial outlet in all villages over time. So that was the plan. To that menu, we are now going to add 2 new products institutional products in the form of payment banks and small finance banks. And coming to processes, one is the game-changing change in the field of the KYC requirement, where we have brought it either there is no concept of permanent or current address, then one of the 6 or 7 documents you can have, and also we have made Aadhaar card one of those instruments for KYC, and eKYC has been enabled. And the third in the 7P framework is, of course, the partnerships. And the banks alone with brick and mortar structure, they cannot achieve financial inclusion. So they have to have whether partnership with telcos, partnership with NGOs, partnership with the business correspondents, with which I was also associated. And the other issue is the product. In terms of product, our main focus in the recent past has been in the mobile banking. So we thought this is one area where we can leapfrog from branch banking to mobile banking. Then the other issue which becomes very critical is protection. The focus is that we want to provide consumer protection, more so people who are in the bottom of the pyramid and the first generation customers who are coming to the formal financial system. And of course, the very critical point about the sustainability and profitability of financial inclusion. There is understanding that if you have a right business model, it can be profitable. So the focus has been that we are focusing in use ICT to cut down cost and expand revenue. Both the ways you can use and small ticket transactions can easily happen. And one of the main problems we face in financial inclusion, in fact, any banking penetration, is the predominance of cash. So if you move to digital inclusion, so this cash, which is almost, we are one of the largest in terms of usage of cash, 12% of GDP in terms of cash usage, and the cost of printing, storing, safeguarding is huge and enormous. So we have tried to see that this profitability aspect is taken care of. The last but not the least important is the people dimension of financial inclusion, where we see that who are the people who are driving financial inclusion. So this dimension also we have been focusing. That is why we have this focus that they should be literate, and we have this focus on what is known as FLCC, Financial Literacy and Credit Counseling Centers, particularly first generation people who go to the formal financial system, and how do they handle cash, how do they handle their debt. For that, the customer as well as the people who serve the customer need to be educated. So this is the people dimension of it. So we need to be careful what sort of portfolio you are building through financial inclusion, what is that quality of the portfolio, who are the people who are generating that portfolio, because technology and means to an end, technology cannot solve all that problem. So we need to have that framework in mind. I think that is what the focus in the next phase of financial inclusion in India. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Gentlemen, next we have a very special guest with us who has traveled all the way from the Philippines to be here with us tonight. He's the president of the first mobile-based microfinance-focused bank in the Philippines. Please put your hands together for the president of BPI Globe Banco, Mr. John Rubio.
Basically, the title of my talk that you see in there is a bit long, leveraging technology for so-and-so, but actually, what we at BPI Globe Banco want to do is we try to capture it in a simple phrase, is we want to bank 1 billion people. So as mentioned, GCash has been in existence since for about the past 10 years. It is a actual mobile money licensed provider in the Philippines, so they operate for me my underlying platform. I am actually a full-fledged bank, so I have a thrift bank license. I'm governed by the same rules of our central bank with regard to things like KYC, AMLA, so on and so forth, as any other bank, capital requirements, and all the like. In the Philippines, we have probably the easiest access point for any account. There's no minimum maintaining balance. You could keep it at 0 as long as you transact. You can cash in as low as $1, right? You have an ATM card. It's fully covered by deposit insurance. And again, you can transact at any point as long as there's a mobile signal, right? So as you can see, what we did was we took an organization which wasn't used to going out and retail scale, but because the platform is purely mobile, what we did was we started doing things like we actually opened booths so that we could activate actual account holders during financial literacy sessions. So we would actually partner with our Department of Social Welfare. So when they were handing out welfare checks, what we would do is after they would do that, we would then talk about financial literacy, like the importance of saving, the importance of building credit history, and then we would give them the opportunity to open a bank account, which they could do real time on the spot, precisely because, again, it's a mobile money platform, right? So we do that through caravans throughout the country. When we took over, we had about 463,000 customers, right? Within the next year, we had about 1 million, so we had more than doubled. And what's very heartening, again, is, and that's the top right-hand chart, is we track a thing called cash-in, cash-out ratio, which is basically deposit versus withdrawal ratio. It's simply that, which just says how much money is going into the system. So, for example, at 1.5 ratio, that means that for every $1 that went out in a withdrawal, we actually got $1.5 coming in. So there is that 0.5 of, I'll call it, money that's being built into the system. And when we look at the stats, what it actually does is at the bottom, people are actually growing their deposits, which is good because it's one of our goals is to make sure that people are depositing money, right? So that if ever there's an accident or they want to start building businesses, they have a cheap access to capital, right? We want to bank 1.5 billion people, and we're not arrogant to think that it's us. Because what that is I want it to be a challenge to us. Because when we look at our region, there's 1.5 billion people who need access to savings so that when there's an emergency, they don't get buried in debt. We need to give them access to credit so that they can start building businesses. Because that's what then drives the economy, so that everyone's lives get uplifted. So that when I say a bank, let's bank 1 billion people, what I mean is we've started, come join us. Thank you.
I'd now like to invite on stage Mr. Sharad Dola, Head of Sales, Marketing and Products for Mobile Financial Services at Amdocs.
Thanks a lot, everybody. First, we need a technology that must be size agnostic. Right? That's the key, because we're talking about serving millions and millions of people that are going to have trillions of transactions. It's volumes that's unheard of. And we're talking about banking transactions, deposits, payments, and so on. The other one is, we are fighting non-consumption. Today, in consumers' mind, holding on to cash is free. Well, that's what they think. Now, how do we fight that non-consumption and actually incentivize them that they feel that there is more value instead of me holding in my pocket or giving it to my dad so that he'll put it in a locker, instead of that, putting it in a bank? How do we fight the non-consumption? So we need to provide, the technology needs to be so personal that it is there with them all the time. It gives them the security. My money is with me all the time. It's always available. It is secure. Nobody is going to steal it. Even if they come and they steal my phone, it is still there. It's there in the cloud, and nobody can steal it, right? And the last one, best of both the worlds, where the security and the compliance of a bank and the agility of a telco model. We call it the Goldilocks problem. When I look at all these three, it needs to solve the security, it needs to provide the personal touch to consumers so that they can technology that they can enjoy this service, and the technology that must be size agnostic and best of both the worlds. So the bottom line is we don't need a truck. This is about a fast-paced market serving millions of people doing trillions of transactions. We need an F1 car. However, it is profitable. So from an Amdocs standpoint, we have a single platform that brings it all together. We realize that we live in an ecosystem. The business lives in an ecosystem, and the technology lives in an ecosystem. We haven't found even we've all been through the technology cycles through the years. There's not one vendor that can do everything, right? We realized that. So first of all, from a scaling and ecosystem perspective, we have a system that is open enough, that can support distribution networks, that can support retail networks. And in addition, we were talking about holding onto physical cards because consumers like cards. It's a status symbol. So we need to interoperate with card networks, and we need to make it very personal. We talk about, security. How do we provide the security solutions that works with the mobile phone to provide that kind of personal touch? So we need a platform that will bring it all together. And from an Amdocs mobile financial services standpoint, we have a platform that can help you support these operations. And not only that, the most important thing is do it profitably. We've been in the industry for 11 years, over 11 years, and we have experts who understand the space. So we have business accelerator teams that actually work with you in segmenting the customers and actually design products that's specific for your needs and for your consumers' needs. And we have a center of excellence that quickly prototypes these solutions and launches these solutions into the market. And we have an operations that will take the day-to-day, is the system available 24/7? Is it secure? It's running. You do not have to worry about it. A provider takes care of it, and it happens with Amdocs. So we not only provide a technology solution, we have an integrated delivery model where we help you define the segment, launch the products, prototype these products, launch it into the market so the consumers start using it, and we operate this for you. Thanks once again for the opportunity.
I'd like to invite on stage our eminent panelists tonight for a CXO panel discussion on the theme, Fueling the Inclusion Agenda.
Thanks so much, Mridhu. And let me start off this discussion with you, Mr. Hota, because at the NPCI, you are really looking at that platform which will bring all the stakeholders together. You've got the RuPay cards out there. You've got the new accounts. You heard these new ideas which have been put forward by countries where success stories are there. Are you rethinking, or what are the ideas that you have right now at NPCI? Share with us in terms of taking that agenda forward to make the end user actively involved in these bank accounts that have been opened.
3 services, the card payment services, the mobile payment services, and Aadhaar-based payment services, the platform is the NPCI. So how do we leverage?
Right.
For RuPay, the card, now cards are available. Cards would have to be activated. For activation of card, what is required is building the acceptance infrastructure. So how would the beneficiary, now who has got recently a bank account, given a RuPay card, how is it meaningful that person? So obviously for withdrawal of cash. Withdrawal of cash, obviously the ATMs are far up. So now the talk of micro ATMs is going on. That the business correspondents, and the business correspondents can be really not just the existing bank mitras, which is 124,000.
Right.
But the 4 million, 5 million, whatever the touch points which are there, the distribution network. Now they can also become the bank correspondents, and they can also be the outlets of the newly created institutions of payments bank.
Let me turn to you, Suresh Sethi, and you're representing the telecom space, and we've been talking and hearing a lot today about how the banking and the telecom industry needs to intersect and come together and utilize each other's strengths within a viable business model. You've done it with the telecom revolution, but are you really seeing, as a telecom company, the opportunity here within some of the frameworks that have been created?
When you talk about outlets, when we talk about, say, 100,000 bank branches, you're actually looking at a telecom reach of 1.6 million outlets. So you're going deep rural, cash being dominant in the country, as we saw the other presentations. It's very important that you have a point where you can convert cash into digital money. Now, that being said, the second thing is the mobile penetration. So every household today does own a mobile already. So if you're able to put money on the mobile and you have points at which you can take the money in and take it out, I think that is where the two meet.
The consumer, the banking consumer, there is the telecom consumer. He is clearly very excited with this market. He loves the opportunities. But how do we get him excited and get him onto this platform?
There's a number of key components that we've seen in our experience around the world. Number one is the agent network has to be very well organized, has to be profitable, has to be motivated. And we've seen in a number of countries, we've seen John talk about his recruitment of agents and building his agent network and making it a profitable business for them. Then I think the key thing is that all markets are different. So what necessarily works in Kenya, what necessarily works in the Philippines, doesn't necessarily work in India. So we really need to take an innovator's mindset to this market. And when I say an innovator's mindset, what do I mean by that? I mean that we need to take thinking from different industries, not just telco, not just banking, but different industries.
You know, what's interesting is that there's been a rethink, for instance, John, in Philippines. You've got new entities coming together, business conglomerate, the banks, because earlier on it was seen almost as a burden, and even now as a burden on banks, and particularly public sector banks, that we have to do this on our own, it's not commercially viable. So do you think it is, in a way, are we still in that fallacy that banks have to take a majority of that load? Until we think of it that way, it will not move forward?
I don't think so. In fact, we at Yes Bank has been adopting a different approach altogether. The approach we say FI for FI, frugal innovations for financial inclusion. And one aspect of this frugal innovation is leveraging on somebody else's already present outreach. Leveraging on networks outreach, leveraging on physical presence. And thankfully with Khan Committee, we got this business correspondent model.
Right.
So we have leveraged that model.
For instance, Vodafone's existing network.
Yes,
so
like that.
A Vodafone agent becomes a business correspondent.
Yes.
Let me come to you, Mr. Gupta. In your experience and in your understanding, how do we really look at approaching the kind of scale that we are looking to achieve?
The first thing which I'd like to put forward here is that one model fits all. I think in a country like India, it's just not possible. That's something which can't happen. Second thing, there are certain other issues which I'd like to point out here. It is not only important to reach them, it is also important to reach them at a particular cost. I think that is what matters. I can have n number of models which are possible, which are feasible. There could be some people who could be able to reach to those people at a particular cost, but that cost should be a viable option for the rural populace.
John, you've heard comments from various stakeholders, of course, representing a very small portion of what is a huge issue as far as India is concerned. What are your thoughts?
As I was listening, I think one of the pitfall that we've learned from is it's not all about payments. I think it's a three-legged stool where you can get mobile money / banking, which I think it's important to look beyond just mobile money and mobile banking. You can really get it firing once you have three, which is the transactions, which is as a base, but you then need to look at also savings and importantly access to capital. I think once those three things are in place, people will then actively look for it.
Thank you so much for coming, John, for coming all the way. And of course, to all our panelists, thank you for sparing the time to help all of us understand the challenges and the way forward as far as financial inclusion is concerned.
And now I'd like to invite back on stage Mr. Patrick McGrory, President, Amdocs Emerging Offerings Division, for some final thoughts before we bring this evening to a close.
This has been an amazing evening. I really would like to thank you all for coming and spending some time with us this evening. What we really tried to bring here was a dialogue. We open here a new dialogue. We turn a page. We bring some experience, some capabilities. I invite you to join the dialogue, to come with us on the next stage of this journey, to embrace the challenge and to experience the success. Cheers. Thank you.